Hello, hello, and welcome to Self-Care is Sexy. My name is Chris, and I'll be your host. We're a podcast that's here to generate and share self-care ideas with each other. Last episode was a two-part series all about self-betrayal. We went through the different examples of exactly what self-betrayal is and gave specific self-care ideas for you on how you can heal from any past self-betrayal you may have committed. I want to give you a quick preview of what to expect from today's show. Today's show, I'm going to debunk the well-worn myth that you're supposed to be pursuing the best version of yourself. I hear it all the time that we're all out here just living our best lives or becoming the very best version of ourselves. I myself have even said it before on this podcast. But today, I'm calling total bullshit on all of it. There is no such thing as your best self. There is, however, a favorite self. And I'm going to walk you through exactly what that means, how to find it, and of course, as always, self-care tips and tricks for you and your favorite self. But first, a quick break. Hello, and welcome back to the show. Thanks for joining me. Today, I'm going to be talking about finding the favorite self versus becoming the best version of you. And I'm bringing this up for a couple of different reasons. One, because I've been using that term, the favorite self, a lot throughout the show, but I've never really gotten around to explaining it exactly. And two, the words that we use, they have so much power, and any chance that we get to change and refine the words that we use to better explain something is so incredibly valuable. And third, and probably most importantly, I'm bringing this topic up because it's super important to me that I do whatever I can to try and help to reverse this pervasive, elitist white supremacy that just saturates the self-help and the self-care industry. There's just this massive push out there, on social media and in our culture, that happiness or the lack of happiness is your fault. And that if only you do more and buy more and shit like, where are my 5 a.m. girlies at? It's all out there saying the same shitty messaging that you are not enough. Well, that's just bullshit. And frankly, a lot of this content out there in the world about self-care and self-help, it's performative. It's trying to sell you something. Look, the truth is, and the reality is, there's nothing wrong with you. And rose quartz balls for your face or new body bath bombs and creams and new clothes aren't going to cure you if you're unhappy. Instead, I want to invite everyone to look at this and with a different approach about self-development or finding your purpose or searching for happiness that doesn't cost money or force you to uphold this gotta be better than narrative. So instead of pushing yourself to obtain all these external competing ideas for what's best for you, I want to encourage you to internalize this concept of the favorite self so that you're taking back some of your own power. In today's show, I'm asking you to trade in the words that you use from my best self or my best life to your favorite self or the favorite version of you or living my favorite life so that you can train your brain away from a concept that's making you feel less than. Living my best life or becoming the best version of myself is sneaky. And it's everywhere, and it wants you to look and pay for external sources to find what makes you complete or happy. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, you can find past episodes of me literally saying the words, become the best version of yourself. I'm not dogging anyone who is pushing that narrative. I'm human. I make mistakes. So when I learn better, I do better. It's just I've been made aware that idea and that narrative is super destructive and it's counterintuitive because it's starting from the place that assumes there's something wrong with you. So with all that today, I'm going to be talking about how you can figure out what that favorite version of you is and how you can start to create that version of you or bring that version of you out. Because the honest truth that beauty companies and self-help advocates don't want to say out loud is that real self-care and real self-compassion and all the ideas and solutions already exist within you. You don't have to buy anything or read anything or sign up for anything. It turns out that every time they're trying to sell you on this idea of the best version of you, they're fucking lying to you because it doesn't exist. The best life isn't the aim. There is no perfect you out there doing the perfect skincare routine, going to the gym every day, eating all organic whole foods, working a full-time job, pursuing your passions, helping others, taking care of the family, keeping an immaculate house, cooking a Martha Stewart fucking miracle for dinner every night, and then winding down with Bible verses and yoga before 8 to 10 hours of beauty sleep. It's not fucking possible. It doesn't exist. And keep this in mind. The other part of all this is that this idea is the goal is 100% happiness all the time, which is not real. It's not possible. Humans are most defined by their suffering. We experience our greatest learning and growing through our difficulties. But the self-care can't sell you that. So they want you believing that you can achieve perfection. You could achieve happiness or your best self if only you'd buy their healing crystals and journals and coaching services. So instead of striving for that best version of you out there that really doesn't exist, let's take a more realistic approach at what we're really striving for and reaching for. And we're going to call it our favorite version of ourselves, because this version of you, this version in your mind, handles real life when it comes up and doesn't need to create an entire new one to feel better about their self. This favorite version is doable, it's sustainable, and it's balanced. So let's look at why we would even want to make this shift in our mindset when it comes to creating a favorite version of ourselves versus striving for the best version of ourselves. I've got 5 reasons why you would want to make that shift. Number 1, perfectionism sucks. The best version of you says that it's gotta be perfect. Everything's gotta be perfect or I won't be happy. The favorite version of you says that it's gotta be something I like. Number 2, the reason you want to make the shift is because negativity persists. The best version of you says you're a garbage human being, and if you can't do it all, you suck. Whereas a favorite version of you asks you if you think that's true. Negativity is what our brains are trained to look for. Your brain is always seeking out what's wrong, where's the danger, one of these things is not like the other. That is how your brain is wired to think. So if you're wired to think that something's wrong with you and you're told over and over something is wrong with you, and if only you'd buy something, get involved in something, sign up for something, or listen to somebody else, then you'd be happy, you'd be okay, you'd be your best life. The reality is that the favorite version of you says, do I think that's true? Do I think that a new skincare routine or a new vegetable fruit smoothie for breakfast every morning or a new Ninja creamer blender that makes ice cream is going to make my life better, make me a better person? If only I had the right coaching services, then I'd lose weight and grow my hair back and win over the love of my life. The favorite version stops and enacts the pause and asks you, is that even what I think? Is that even what I like? Number 3, self-compassion is the biggest reason we want to change our mindset from the best version of ourselves to the favorite version of ourselves, because the best version says you're too far away from the best version of you where you're at now. Just give up. Whereas the favorite version is actually more compassionate and says, well, what can we do right now, today, that's a realistic step towards this version of me? The favorite version is much more self-compassionate than the best version, because the best version is telling you there's a right and a wrong. There's a yes and a no, and that's it. Where the favorite version comes from a more curious place, where it wants to know, is this right? Is it wrong? Have I achieved what I'm looking for? There's real self-compassion in creating a favorite version of yourself versus creating the best version of yourself, which is so rigid. Number 4, the reason we want to create the favorite version of ourselves versus striving for the best version of ourselves is that it's honorable energy, meaning that the best version says, I don't care if you're tired. You're not good enough how you are right now, and you need to get up and you need to do more. The favorite version of yourself says, whatever you're doing right now, it's not working. It's not you. It's not you. You're not the problem. It's the process. So what could we change about the process? Now, I want to give an example of this because honorable energy is a very deep and complex concept, and I'm really just skimming the surface here. But the best example I can give is that if you're always striving for the best version of yourself, and the best version of yourself always goes to the gym no matter what, and the favorite version says, I go to the gym at least 3 times a week. The best version will say to you when you get a stress fracture or your mom dies or your dog gets sick or something happens and you're staying up late the night before, that because you didn't make it to the gym in the morning, you failed. Whereas the favorite version of you is loving and compassionate and wants to say, you know what, it's okay. What's happening right now to you is outside of your control, and we'll get at it when we get back into our routine. Now, I want to make sure I'm clear about this. The favorite version isn't like lulling you into a sense of you don't have to do the hard thing. The favorite version is just saying there's more to it than yes or no, right or wrong, black or white. And number 5, last but not least, the reason we want to switch this mindset from the best version of ourselves to creating this favorite version of ourselves is because it puts you in charge. The best version of us says, you can't possibly know what it is that's going to make you happy, so look for it everywhere else. Google and scroll until your heart's content and let someone else tell you what achieving happiness looks like or achieving that best life. It also creates a fake ceiling. When you have this concept in your mind of your best self, once you have achieved all the things that make up the best self, you've checked all the boxes, you look around and that's it. That's it. We're done. What the fuck is that? That is the most boring, lackluster, unsatisfying finish I've ever heard of. Whereas the favorite version says, you want to know who I am? Ask. Think about it. If you had a goal in mind of some way that you wanted to be, and that version of the way that you wanted to be was curious and fun and compassionate and loving and just said, hey, if you want to know how to get here, just ask me. I'll tell you. And it's not through perfectionism. Spoiler alert. All right, I'm going to run through that list real quick. The 5 reasons why we even want to make the shift from creating the best version of ourselves to creating and curating this favorite version of ourselves is number 1, perfectionism sucks. Number 2, negativity persists. Number 3, self-compassion. Number 4, honorable energy. And number 5, you are in charge. All right, so now that we kind of know why we should be trying to make this shift in using the language and the concept and the idea of instead of getting out there and living your best life or becoming this best version of you, we're really going to start thinking about it in a different way. And the easiest way to make that shift, because these are big concepts, but the easiest way that you can make that shift is just change the language. That's all I'm asking you to do. There's no real big action here. Notice I'm not selling you anything. I'm not telling you that this is the right and only way. I'm saying here's the difference between the two. You pick. You do what's best for you. You are the authority on your own self-care. This podcast is about generating and sharing self-care ideas together. It is not about me telling you what you must do or have to do to feel better. I'm giving you some contrast to see the different things that you're doing to maybe change your language in this one little area to see how that affects you in the long run. So once we've kind of made that shift and we're like, okay, maybe you're there and you're like, okay, Chris, I hear you. This is a good idea. So how do I do that? Well, let's get to that. Of course, I got lists. I've got the 5 easiest ways that you can start to create or curate this favorite version of yourself. Number 1, you're going to ditch the high score mentality. So you cannot beat your best score by doing the same thing that you did to get that high score. Look, I'm going to tell you something, and if you are big on quotes, if you are big on motivation, this one changed my life. I hope that it changes yours too. The magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. Let me say it again for the kids in the back. The magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. You've got to ditch this mentality and this idea that you got to be better than you were yesterday. It isn't about that. You aren't competing against you. You're not competing at all. It turns out, in trying to learn the tools and the tips and tricks on how to manage your emotions, how to feel better, how to take care of yourself, there are so many variables involved. It is never the same thing over and over and over again. Because what becomes routine is no longer providing the care. So there is work involved to create that routine. But once it's routine, you don't have to think about it anymore. And surprise, turns out you have to put effort into taking care of yourself, into the relationship you are having with yourself. And the only way you do that is through consistently trying to figure it out. Number 2, work on the current version of yourself. Because when you're trying to create a new experience for yourself, or you're trying to work on something, notice I didn't say fix the problem. You're trying to work on something. Like maybe you're working on your people pleasing, or you're working on the skill of making self-care the priority. Well, if you're constantly working on the best version of yourself, and that's your focus, you're often planning or future casting way too far in advance. You don't know that version of yourself, and literally you're just guessing. What is a better use of your time is for you to focus on today's version for your self-care. So who you are right now. So I want you to think about this. How can you set up this next week to get more self-care in for who you are now, not to get you to achieve who you're trying to become? Because self-discipline or parenting yourself, it builds self-respect. But you have to be able to build the discipline and create the self-respect for who you are right now. And if you're doing extreme measures to get you from where you are to the final version of you, that best version, right? That finish line that is unobtainable, by the way. To get there, there's way too many steps in between. All you want to do if you're working on something with yourself is, what is that 1% level up that I can do? What is working right now? Work on the version that you currently are. Number 3, how do you do that? You create structure. You're going to set a schedule for yourself where you go to bed around the same time. You get up or make your bed around the same time. You have a morning routine. That's it. You just create structure so that you can build in some of these easy wins for yourself. You need to start feeling good about yourself, and you need to feel like you have some control in all of this. So you can find that favorite version of your life by having some success, being the driving decider of your life right now. This is going to set you up to figure out, when do you want to go to bed? How do you want to spend your day? You are better than you give yourself credit for, and you do not reward yourself with self-care. Self-care is a daily requirement if you want genuine happiness and positive self-esteem over the long run. But in order to figure out what it is that is self-care for you, you've got to start taking care of the self that you already are. And when you create structure, you are taking care of who you are right now. You're saying, this version of me right now deserves sleep, deserves to have less stress, so the decisions are made beforehand, that type of thing. Number 4, you can do a daily plan for yourself. And this you have to put a little bit of effort in to kind of define what you're looking for. But I think you've got this handled. I think you know where we're going with this. But until you put it on paper, it's all just a jumbled mess in your mind. So setting ourselves up for success when we're creating this favorite version of ourselves requires thinking about the version of ourselves that is the worst version of ourselves. And thinking about the version of yourself that is desperately needing self-care. And then designing a plan around that version's needs. So on your worst day, on the day when you wake up late, you stub your toe, you're out of toothpaste, the car won't start, everything's falling apart. What does that version of you need? And then create a routine based on that. So for example, for me, my sort of gotta do-ums or protocol for self-care right now includes my emotional support water bottle. I call it that because I'm not perfect at always drinking all the water that's in it, but I carry it everywhere I go. So therefore it is more like an emotional support water bottle than it is getting my water in. But I'm not beating myself up because I'm not the perfect version of me that gets every single 90 some odd ounces of water that I need every day. I am working towards the favorite version of me that drinks all water. I'm not there yet. I'm not beating myself up. And I'm not buying 10 different kinds of water bottles to achieve that goal. Now listen, folks, I'm going to sidebar here for a second. I'm sharing this with you because I went through that. I spent a lot of time in the very beginning of this self-care is sexy journey buying 10 different kinds of water bottles. I'm just trying to cut to the chase, save you the time, save you that energy, and tell you if water is your priority, if that's your self-care, you will drink it out of a fucking bowl. You don't really need a fancy cup that tells you the ounces. If it's a priority and it's a routine and it's something that's important, you will make that happen no matter what. It won't be, oh, I only drink water when I have my special flavor add-ins or the ice chips that I like or whatever. You'll drink it when it comes out of the fountain from the hospital ER because it's a priority to you no matter what the circumstances are. So having that plan in place for the worst version of you and then working on that is much more easy, much more obtainable, much more realistic than planning for the best version of you out there that doesn't even exist. You're aiming your goal the wrong way. Instead of looking at the furthest version of you, the perfect version of you, turn your gaze back to the worst version of you or the most hurting version of you and do your self-care planning around that version. Because you'll create wins for that version, whereas seeking this further out in the future version that you've never been before, you can't possibly get there yet. You don't even know what that version needs. Number 5, last but not least, on how we create this favorite version of ourselves is that you're going to build new experience. So in your experiment of creating this new favorite version of yourself, you're going to start with these baby steps by building a new experience. So instead of overhauling everything that you do now and forcing yourself into a routine that you just can't keep up with, you start small and you build the experiences like you would a new house. First, you find the plot, and that's like the rough idea of what that favorite self is. Now you level out the land and get ready to pour that foundation, and that is just making the list and really thinking about what that favorite version of yourself would live by. What would they do on a daily basis? So for example, if the favorite version of you saves money, take whatever cash you have and put it in an envelope. Build up to the version of you that's making their money make money. If the favorite version of you is fit, start right now and do 2 or 3 reps of an exercise that you know helps you become fit for your body. You build these new experiences and you dismantle the perfectionism that if I can't get a 30-minute workout in, it's not worth it. You can do like 5 arm pumps right now, as long as you're not driving or doing anything that requires your arms. You could do, 6 lift legs right now. Again, if you're not driving or doing anything that would cause you harm and doing such. But building in these new experiences and just Giving yourself that tiny little experience of doing the thing you don't want to do or the thing that you know the favorite version of you would do normally, you start doing it really small and it just becomes easy. Look, this whole shift in mindset does not have to be a trudgery uphill battle. You don't have to make any big changes. That's not what we're about here. We're about making the tiniest, smallest changes consistently so that all of a sudden, all these things that you said to yourself, my favorite version wants me to do this for me, they become routine. They become easy. There's not a lot of effort in that. So again, the 5 ways that you're going to create this favorite version of you is 1, you're going to ditch the high score mentality. 2, you're going to work on the current version. 3, you're going to create structure. 4, you're going to plan for the worst version of you. And 5, you're going to start to build some new experiences. All right, and we're going to wrap up here with 5 quick self-care tips when it comes to building the favorite version of you. Number 1, the first self-care tip for that favorite version is you're going to repair what's not broken first. Yes, you heard me correctly. You're going to repair what's not broken. So our minds are always constantly looking for what's wrong. And if you look long enough, you'll find something. You'll find that there's something broken. So let's start our self-care activities with repairing what's not broken. Okay? So take a moment right now and think of something, a habit, a trait, or like a hobby that you already have on lock and start there. So for me, something that's going really well in my self-care is journaling. I love to journal. I'm a writer. It's my favorite thing. I love it. And if I was working towards finding or curating that favorite version of myself, I would look for some new journal prompts to add to my already ongoing routine. Or if, let's say, for example, I'm really good at public speaking, I would reach out to some prospective opportunities and schedule that. You get the idea. You see what I'm talking about when I talk about repair what's not wrong. Work on the positive things going well. I know I've said that a million times on this show, but I'm going to reiterate it every time we talk so that you can understand how fundamentally important it is. Number 2, a good self-care tip for creating the favorite version of yourself is a new look. And I don't mean like new hairdo or clothes or makeup. No. That's not the new look I'm talking about. I'm talking about what you're looking at. Whatever you do on a consistent daily basis, if you are at work or if you are at home and your environment that you're looking at, let's start to dress that up a little bit. And if you're on a budget, there's thrift stores. If you have no money whatsoever, there's, offer up or buy nothing. There's all kinds of ways and groups that you can just create a new look, a new environment for your eyes. It's appealing. Number 3, shorten your day by 1 hour. I used this trick for the longest time and it really works. So literally you're backing your bedtime up by an hour or you're waking up 1 hour later. So you're shortening the hours of productivity by 1 hour. Huge self-care tip. Number 4, write and email yourself consistently. Now look, we all live in the real digital world. You've got more than one email address, I'm certain of it. So start writing yourself emails consistently. If you're at your work and you can do that and that's allowed, write yourself an email to your personal work that's words of encouragement or something that you want to think about. It gets shit out of your head, onto the paper and out of your brain so that you can really focus on taking care of yourself in the moment. Number 5, keep track of the positive thoughts you're having about yourself. Now remember, becoming the favorite version of yourself is about creating identity instead of setting goals. This is not a check off the list type game. Yes, there are things that you can do to accelerate from where you are now to that favorite version of you, but it's not a race. You're not building a cheap ass version of yourself that falls apart at the slightest inconvenience. You're taking the time to build a strong, self-sufficient version that makes taking care of their maintenance a priority. That's it for this week. Thanks for joining me. If you have a story you'd like to share and you want to be on the show, please email me. It's Chris, Kris, at selfcareissexy.com. Okay, we've got some really great content coming soon, so stay tuned. And remember that self-care is sexy. We're giving you permission to put yourself first.